The smell of sulfur still makes my chest tighten. I was lighting a candle in the kitchen today. Something stupid, something lemon-scented from the dollar store, and for a second it took me back. Not to the fire itself. Not yet. That comes later. It took me to the matchbook. The old red one you used to keep on the windowsill above the sink. Warped from the heat, a dancing devil printed on the cover like a cartoon warning no one ever listened to. You said it was for emergencies, but you smoked back then. I think we both knew why it was really there. Funny, isn't it? A father should be the one to light the way. But you just handed me the match. I never told you about the fire. Not really. Not in the way that mattered. Not in the way where the words get stuck in your throat because they're covered in soot. It's been 33 years since the flames chewed through that summer. I was 12. You were a ghost pretending to be a man. A beer bottle always chasing your shadow. You lived at the bottom of a silence so wide, it turned the whole house into a whisper. I used to think the match was the beginning, that if I hadn't touched it, if I'd just obeyed your off-handed grunts and your hard eyes, none of it would have happened. But that's a lie guilt tells you when it wants to feel holy. The beginning wasn't the match. The beginning was your hand. I can still feel it. Not when you hit me, but when you didn't. When it hovered over me in the kitchen shaking. When it almost landed on my shoulder that night after Mom left. When it curled around the neck of a bottle instead. The not touching was worse. I wanted your hand to do something. I think that's why I lit it. The match. I think I wanted to force the world into motion. To wake you up. To break the fog. And I did. God. I did. The first time I saw you cry was the night the fire started. You didn't know I was crouched outside the shed, listening through the slats, the way a stray listens to the back door of a butcher shop. I was always waiting for scraps. You were drunk, of course, half collapsed into that folding chair, that old one, with the plastic strips, melted together from when you put it too close to the grill. You kept muttering Mom's name. Marlene. Marlene. Like if you said it enough, it would make her come back. Like some bastardized incantation. You lit a cigarette with one of those matches from the book. The last one. I remember watching you strike it, watching your hand tremble like it didn't belong to you anymore. That's when I saw it. The shine in your eyes, not sweat, not the beer, not the heat. I'd never seen you look like a boy before. A tired, broken boy who didn't know how to live in a house without his wife. Didn't know how to look his son in the eye. I should have gone to you then. I should have crawled through that broken door and told you I loved you, or that I hated you, or that I was sorry for becoming another piece of your silence. But I didn't. I ran. I went into the woods with my own matchbook. My secret one, and I found that little clearing by the riverbank. I remember the way the air smelled there, damp bark, crushed ferns, the leftover smoke from the last time I'd tried to feel powerful. I built a small fire, just like you did when you taught me how to make one on that father-son camping trip before everything went to hell. You'd shown me how to stack the kindling like a pyramid, how to feed it gently like it was a living thing. That night, I did it exactly the way you showed me. Then I walked away. I didn't mean for it to spread. I didn't know the wind would turn like that. There's this sound I still hear in my sleep. The crackling. Not just the fire. No, not that. The crackling of your voice when you called my name through the smoke. You thought I was inside the house. I wasn't. I was in the field watching the orange grow tea. I remember how the smoke painted your face when you stumbled out the front door. Wild-eyed and shirtless. You were barefoot. You didn't even know you were bleeding. And then you saw me, standing there, perfectly untouched. The way your eyes changed. That was the moment I stopped being your son. I told the police I didn't know what happened, that I was just out walking, and when I turned around, the house was already a torch. You never contradicted me. You told them the electrical wiring was bad, that you'd been meaning to fix it. That was the last lie you ever told for me. After that, the lies were only about me. The school counselor said the trauma could explain my anger issues, the night terrors, the way I stopped talking in class. You let them think it was the fire that broke me, but it wasn't. It was the silence after. You never asked me if I did it. You never said you forgave me. You just moved us into that apartment on Main and started drinking earlier in the day. Your hand never reached for me again. It stayed curled around the neck of the bottle, tight as a I remember the couch always smelled like old leather and burnt toast. I remember the way you snored with your mouth open, like a man trying to drown in air. And I remember the way you never talked about the house. The house we lost, the house I burned. They say confession is supposed to cleanse you, that the truth is a fire of its own, burning away shame until all that's left is ash. But I've carried this too long for that. The guilt isn't ash. It's ember. Still glowing. Still warm. Still mine. I never told you about the fire. Not really. But I'm telling you now. Because I found the matchbook today. The red one. It was in the bottom of that box you left in the garage when you died. The one marked tools. I struck one just to see if it still worked. It did. God help me. It did. There are dreams I keep in a jar. Tight-lidded. Set high on a shelf somewhere deep inside me. But some nights the seal slips, and the memories slither out like smoke under a door. Last night I was back in the apartment, the one over Hank's auto, the place with the cracked linoleum that curled like dead skin. I could hear you again pacing in the kitchen, not quite shouting, not quite singing, just that low hum you used to make when you were trying to hold yourself together, the sound of defeat set to a broken rhythm. You always did whistle when you were about to break something. I woke up sweating. The sheets wrapped around my ankles like restraints. It wasn't the fire this time. It was that night you burned the photographs. I hadn't thought about it in years. You waited until I was supposed to be asleep, but I was always listening. You must have known that. Hell, I wanted you to know. That was the game we played. Pretend we weren't looking at each other from opposite ends of the grave. I remember the sound of the metal trash can lid scraping against the tile, the flick of your lighter, then the crackling. Not like the fire in the woods. Soft, more personal. The sound of paper dying. I crept down the hallway and watched from the edge of the doorway. You had them spread out on the floor like tarot cards, wedding photos, Christmas mornings. Me in my stupid cowboy costume, Mom in her yellow apron. Laugh. It was the only time she looked real in a picture, like she wasn't playing the part. You picked each one up like it weighed something, like it fought back. Then you fed it to the flame. I couldn't move. I didn't cry. I didn't say your name. I just watched you erase us. After that, something changed. You stopped saying we. It was always me or you. You need to eat. I can't afford that. You broke it. I never asked for this. It wasn't grief. It was exorcism. The fire took the house, but you took the rest. You became a man of half sentences and whole bottles. I learned to read your moods by the weight of your footsteps. If they dragged, I stayed quiet. If they stomped, I hid. But on good days you'd bring me back a Kit Kat from the gas station, a peace offering, a memory of what it felt like to be loved in fragments. I saved the wrappers in a shoebox. There were 17 by the time you got arrested. It was the third time I called 911. The first time was an accident. I thought you'd had a stroke. You were lying on the kitchen floor, one hand twitching, your mouth slack. I didn't know what a blackout looked like back then. The second time, it was because I found your arm bleeding in the bathtub. You said you slipped shaving, but there was no razor. The third time, you threw a chair at me. It missed, barely, shattered against the wall like it had been holding its breath. I don't remember dialing. I don't remember what I said. All I remember is the look on your face when the cops cuffed you. You weren't angry. You were relieved, like someone had finally read you your last line. You didn't come home for 2 weeks. When you did, you had a paper from a counselor and a black eye. You never said who gave it to you. I hoped it hurt, and I hated myself for that. We tried. After that, sort of. You went to 2 meetings, left early both times, said the people there were worse than you. You bought a new folding chair. You cooked one dinner, spaghetti. It tasted like cigarettes. You asked me to sit with you and watch a movie. Predator, I think. Something loud and full of things neither of us could feel anymore. We sat there in the blue glow of the screen, 2 shadows pretending to be a family. You reached for a beer halfway through, then stopped, let your hand hover. I remember holding my breath like the whole night depended on that hand. It dropped back into your lap. I wanted to tell you then. I wanted to say, I started the fire. But I didn't, because you were trying. In your broken, impossible way, you were trying. And if I gave you the truth, you'd stop. You'd crumble. I needed you to try more than I needed you to know, so I let the secret harden inside me, like scar tissue. You died, 10 years later, alone, a heart attack in a motel 3 counties away. They found your name on a crumpled employment form by the nightstand. You'd written next of kin, but left it blank. I got the call from a nurse who sounded sorry, or maybe just tired. When I cleaned out your things, I found a bag of Werther's originals in the glove box. and the box in the garage marked tools. The matchbook was inside, the red one. You'd kept it all this time. Why? Was it guilt? Was it memory? Was it a souvenir from the boy you once almost loved? I keep thinking about smoke signals, about how people used to send messages by setting controlled fires, little puffs of meaning rising into the sky. I wonder if that's what you were doing all along, trying to tell me something, or maybe trying to hear something back. Well, here I am, listening. Still, I used to think the fire made us fragile. Now I know it made us hard, but in the worst ways, not like stone, like splinters, small sharp pieces of ourselves drifting apart, impossible to fit back together. It's a strange thing, returning to a place that doesn't exist anymore. I went back to the field last week, the one by the river, the clearing. I don't know why. I guess because I needed to see if it was still there. If I was still there, it was smaller than I remembered. Isn't that always the way? Trees had grown up around it, thick with years I couldn't name. The underbrush had claimed the edges, but when I stood in the middle and looked down, I could still see the faint black outline of where it happened, like a scar the earth tried to forget but couldn't. I crouched there for a while, ran my fingers through the dirt. Charcoal still lives in it. I came home with soot under my nails. I didn't wash it off. That same night, I had a dream about you again. Not the drunk version, not the chair-throwing, eye-averting ghost of you, but the man you might have been if the world hadn't done to you what you did to me. We were sitting at a campfire, real this time. Not that funeral pyre I made out of spite and loneliness. You passed me a marshmallow on a bent stick. You smiled, and I woke up crying. I didn't even know I could anymore. There's something about the way grief creeps back into your life when you think you've outlived it. It doesn't come roaring in like before. It arrives gentle, disguised as small things. A box of matches, the sound of boots on linoleum, the way I flinch when someone raises their hand too quickly. I still can't eat spaghetti. I still avoid the hardware aisle. In stores, I still hold my breath around boys who look like they need their fathers. And I still write letters I'll never send, like this one. Do you remember Uncle Dave's funeral? I was 16. You wore your good boots and a jacket that didn't fit anymore. You didn't say much, just stood at the back of the chapel, your hat in your hands, eyes fixed on the coffin like it might open up and say something you forgot to hear. On the drive home you pulled off the road by the lake, just sat there, watching the water like it might give you a better answer than I ever could. Dave was a good man, you said. It was the first full sentence I'd heard from you in months. Then out of nowhere, you think I'm a good man. I didn't know what to say. You didn't wait for an answer. You just turned the key and drove us back in silence. I've been answering that question ever since. Some days it's yes. Most days it's maybe. But there are nights, deep, fire-lit nights, when the answer is still no. And I hate that I have to live with that. I tried being a father myself, once. Her name was Ellie. She was quiet like me, laughed like her mother. I thought I could break the cycle, be something better than what raised me. But something was already broken inside me, and broken things don't build, they replicate. I yelled once, just once. She was 5. I don't even remember what it was about. Something stupid, something small. Her glass spilled on the carpet, I think. But I remember the look on her face. That look. It was the same look I wore the day you slammed your fist into the wall beside my head and told me to stop crying like a girl. I packed my bags 2 months later. Walked away just like you, but not out of cowardice. Out of fear. Fear that staying would burn her too. Ellie's 17 now. Her mother sends me pictures sometimes. Prom dress, soccer trophy, that crooked smile I gave her. She calls someone else dad. And I let her. Because I don't want her to remember me as the match. I keep your red matchbook in a locked drawer. I take it out sometimes, not to light it, just to hold it, to remember, to remind myself that fire, once started, never truly dies. It just finds new things to feed on. Sometimes I wonder if you knew that, if that's why you kept it. Not because of me, but because you were scared of what you'd do with it again. Maybe that's the only thing we ever had in common. We were both afraid of what our hands could do. I've been thinking about telling Ellie the truth, about you, about the house that burned, and the father who didn't. Not so she'll forgive me, but so she won't become me. I want her to understand that love is more than survival, that fire can be warmth, not just destruction, but I haven't found the words yet. Maybe that's why I'm still writing this, to find them. One ember at a time. The last time I saw your brother, Uncle Lou, it was at the VA hospital in Temple.
The room smelled like bleach and microwaved Salisbury steak. There was a grey film on the window I couldn't wipe off, no matter how hard I tried. He was sitting up in bed, too thin for his skin, more scar than man. He said, "You've got your father's walk," and I wanted to punch a hole in the wall. Not because I hated the idea, but because I felt it. The drag, the tension in the knee, the half-defeated rhythm of someone who always expects the ground to give out. It's strange. The things we carry, not just inside, but in the body, the hands, the breath, the jaw that tightens at the exact same moment yours used to. Lou told me stories I'd never heard, about you as a boy, said you were quiet, bookish, that you cried the day your father beat the dog to death, that you stopped talking for a week afterward, that you ran away at 15 and only came back because mom got pregnant. He said your dad loved hard, but he never learned soft. I wrote that line down. Still haven't decided if it's an excuse or a eulogy. I was going through my old notebooks the other night, the ones I kept when I still thought being a writer could save me. I found a page I'd torn out and folded into an envelope. No address, just one word on the front. Dad. It wasn't a letter, it was a list. Things I'll never say to you. I hated the way your voice sounded when you were drunk. It turned into gravel and static, like a broken radio tuned to someone else's nightmare. I used to lie awake and pretend you were dead, just so I could practice how it would feel. I wished you'd hit me once, just once, so I could stop being afraid of when you might. I stole your watch, the one you thought mom took when she left. It's still in my drawer, still ticking. I lit the fire. That last one, the fifth, was written in darker ink, a different pen, a later hand, like I had to grow into the courage to confess it, even to paper. I saw Ellie again, just for a minute. She came by the house to pick up a package her mom accidentally sent here. Her eyes landed on the matchbook when I opened the drawer. She said, "That looks dangerous," and I laughed. A real laugh, ugly, honest. I told her it was my father's. She said, "You still talk to him?" I said, "I'm trying." She looked at me for a long time, then said, "That's more than you used to," and she left. She didn't hug me, didn't cry, just left. But she looked back once, through the window, and in that glance, I saw the thing I've been chasing my whole life. Recognition. Some nights I still sleep with the lights on, not because I'm afraid of the dark, but because I'm afraid of what comes out in the dark. Memories with teeth, regrets with names, silence that sounds too much like you. I drink less now, write more. I talk to Ellie's mom sometimes. She's remarried. Happy. Kind. She said I look older than I should, that I carry something heavy. She's not wrong. She asked me once, "Why didn't you fight harder for her?" And I said, "Because I didn't want her to grow up on fire." I think you tried, Dad. In your way. In your wounded, wordless way. I think there were mornings you meant to apologize, but the coffee burned and the words choked. I think you believed love was protection, not presence, that keeping your pain inside was the same as keeping us safe. You were wrong, but God, I see you now. I see the little boy who buried his heart under ash. And I see myself digging through it, hoping to find the shape of something familiar, maybe forgiveness, maybe not. But something. I'm taking Ellie to lunch next week. She asked me, her idea. I don't know what I'll say, but I know what I won't say. I won't say I'm sorry, not yet. Because that's not a finish line, it's a fire alarm, and before I ring it, I want to be sure there's water this time. I want her to know I'm not just a man with matches in his blood. I want to be the smoke she doesn't run from. I want to be the father I needed. There's a sound I haven't heard in 20 years, but I remember it better than your voice. The sound of nothing. Not silence. Not really. Silence is something you choose, like closing a book or shutting a door, but nothing is different. Nothing is absence. Nothing is the echo of a voice that never came. A hug never offered. A word left hanging in the air until time devours it. That was our house after the fire. Even after we moved, even after the boxes were unpacked and the new bed creaked with the weight of old ghosts, the apartment was always full of noise, traffic. The neighbor's TV. The buzzing fridge that clicked off at exactly 3:12 a.m. But you were the center of the nothing. You didn't speak unless you had to, and when you did, it was clipped, short. Final, like every word cost you blood. I wanted to fill the space. I tried. I talked too much, laughed too loud, brought home drawings and tests with red stars on them. Once I even cooked dinner, a scrambled egg and toast so burnt the smoke alarm went off. You didn't yell. You didn't smile. You just unplugged the battery and said, "Be more careful." I think that hurt more than anything else you could have done. Years later, I realized what it reminded me of, the quiet. The kind they play in movies after an explosion, that high ringing nothing, where all the world is stunned and the hero stumbles through dust and wreckage, searching for someone to answer back. That was me. And you were the debris. The counselor I saw in my 20s said I have survivor's empathy, that I learned to predict moods with hypervigilance, that I read faces like warning labels. She said, you learn to love by avoiding harm. And it cracked something open in me, because she was right. I flinch when people speak too softly. I apologize when I ask for things. I laugh in tense situations, not because I'm amused, but because I was trained to defuse bombs. You were the first one, the loudest one, and the one that never quite went off. I wonder sometimes what would have happened if we'd had one real conversation, just one. Not a screaming match, not a silence breaker, but something human. Maybe over coffee, maybe in the truck, driving past the ruins of the old house, maybe on your last day, in that motel room with the Bible in the drawer, and the TV flashing blue against your dead hands. I picture you sitting up, looking at me, saying I knew it was you, and me saying, I know, and then nothing. But the good kind this time, the kind that means peace. When I met Ellie for lunch, she ordered soup, tomato basil, the same kind you used to slurp from a can when you were too tired to cook. She laughed like her mother, but she fidgeted like me, picking at the napkin, twisting her spoon, eyes darting to exits like she needed a contingency plan. She said, I don't hate you. Just like that. No preamble, no ramp, and I couldn't speak, because I didn't believe her. Not then, but I nodded like I did, because maybe that's the beginning of love, pretending, until it's real. After she left, I stayed at the table for an hour. I traced the rim of her soup bowl. I wrote a list on the napkin, the way I used to in Note, things I want to be. A man who tells the truth before it becomes regret. A father who listens, even when it hurts. A son who can forgive without forgetting. A match that lights a candle, not a fire. Here, I think you're in the walls of this house sometimes. Not like a ghost, not haunting, just lingering, in the scuff marks on the floor, in the way the bedroom door swells in humidity, in the way I catch myself standing in the kitchen, staring at nothing, thinking of nothing, becoming nothing. The quiet creeps in like smoke. But now, I light a candle. Just one. Lemon scented. I strike the match with care. I let it burn. I place it gently to the wick. And I say aloud, every time, I forgive you, even when I don't mean it. Especially then.
I drove out to the edge of the old county line yesterday, the one where the road peels off into gravel and time folds back on itself, where memory breathes deeper. I hadn't planned to. My hands just turned the wheel, like they knew before I did. It's still there. What's left of it anyway? The foundation, the blackened bones of our old house. Or maybe I should call it your house. I never really lived in it, not all the way. I survived it. There's a difference. I parked the car and sat with the engine off, just listening. Nothing but wind. It moved through the trees like a warning, like it remembered. The air still smells like ash, faint, ghostly, as if the ground holds its breath waiting for someone to ask about what happened. So I asked, why did you stay? I meant it for you, I think, or maybe for Mom. Maybe even for me. The place has been reclaimed by grass, vines curling up where our porch used to be. I found the rusted hinges from the front door, a square of scorched tile I used to sit on to tie my shoes, pieces, no hole, just like us. I brought Ellie here once when she was little, before everything fell apart. She had a bag of marshmallows and a pink plastic shovel. She asked if this was where I played growing up. I lied, said yes, because I wanted her to imagine something whole. A boy in a yard with a dog. A tire switch, not the truth. A kid afraid to sleep, afraid to speak, clutching a matchbook like a lifeline. She believed me. Children always believe what they're told, until they don't. When I got home, I opened your box again, the one from the garage. I'd buried it in the back of the closet behind coats that don't fit and guilt I haven't grown out of. There's something I didn't see before, tucked between an old wrench and a set of sockets, a map, drawn by hand. Faint lines, trails and trees, an X near the riverbank. You never said a word about it. But the handwriting is yours, your crooked R's, your habit of curling the numbers backward when you were tired. What were you mapping? What were you trying to find? Or bury? I followed it today, parked at the end of Bell Creek Road, walked past the split elm, the fence post with the initials DM, carved in it. Took the turn by the river. There it was. The clearing. Smaller again, but unmistakable. I stood where the fire started. Where I started it. Where you must have come back to. Quietly, secretly, drawing this map like it might rewrite something. I knelt, dug for a while with my hands. The dirt was soft. I didn't expect to find anything, but I did. A box. Metal, rusted, sealed with duct tape yellowed by time. I opened it. Inside, a photo of me and you at that camping trip, the one before it all broke. I'm holding a fish, smiling. You've got your arm around me. You're smiling too. I don't remember it being taken, but there it was. Below it, a note. For when you come looking, that was it. No signature, no date. Just those 5 words. I sat there until the light faded, holding it, trying to understand if it was forgiveness, confession, or something else entirely. I've spent my life trying to explain what burned. But maybe this is the truth. It wasn't the fire that ruined us. It was everything we didn't say before the match was struck. And maybe it's not too late to speak. Ellie's coming by tomorrow. She wants to talk, not text, not email, talk. And I think I'm ready, or at least ready to try. I'll bring the photo, I'll bring the map, and I'll tell her everything. Even the parts that hurt, especially those. She arrived at 3:05, not early, not late. Right on time, like she wanted to prove she wasn't scared, but wasn't too eager, either. That she could balance on that sharp edge of curiosity and distance. I watched from the window as she stepped out of her car, her hair pulled back, her hands empty. Not even a purse. She walked up the steps slowly, like each one might give way. I opened the door before she knocked. We stood there for a beat too long. "Hey," I said. "Hey," she echoed. The same word, but hers didn't shake. We sat at the kitchen table. I'd cleared it, wiped it down twice, set out 2 glasses of water like it was a goddamn job interview. I wanted to offer coffee, tea, something to make it easier, but that felt like a performance, like dressing a wound with flowers. So we just sat. The photo lay between us, the one from the box, me and you, with the fish, the impossible smiles. She looked at it a long time, then she touched it, just a fingertip. "That's you?" I nodded. "You look happy." I was, for a minute. She didn't ask anything else. Not at first, just stared. The way you stare at a fire that hasn't caught yet. "I know something happened," she finally said. Her voice was soft, steady. "Mom never told me, not directly, but I knew. I always knew. The way you looked away when I said Dad. The way you sent birthday cards but never signed love. The way you never came inside." I swallowed. Hard, like I could choke down the years. "I was afraid," I said. "Of me?" "No, of turning into him." She looked at the photo again. "Did you?" I didn't answer. I reached into the envelope beside me and pulled out the map, laid it next to the picture, watched her eyes scan it. The ink, the curled numbers, the X. I told her everything. About the fire, about you, about the box in the dirt, and the words you left behind, about the matchbook I carried like a secret spine. I told her about the night I thought she looked at me with your eyes, and how I left. Not because I didn't love her, but because I did. Because I didn't trust myself to hold love without setting it on fire. She didn't cry, neither did I. There was no dramatic moment, no broken glass or slammed door, or arms suddenly open, just silence, but not the old kind, not the nothing kind. This was, wait, real, solid. She picked up the map, traced the lines, found the X. "You think he knew you'd find it?" she asked. "I don't know. I think he did." "Why?" She shrugged. "Because sometimes even the worst people want to be found." She left the photo, took them, said she wanted to see it herself. The clearing. The spot. I didn't offer to come. I knew this part was hers, but before she walked out she said, "I'll call you after." And I believed her. For the first time in years, I believed someone. I stood in the doorway long after her car disappeared, watching the empty street, listening to the wind push through the trees. No sirens. No smoke. Just breath. Just now, and maybe, just maybe, a beginning. The call came just after dusk. I'd been sitting in the living room, staring at the old clock on the wall, the one that ticks like it's tired. I hadn't heard from her all day, didn't want to press. This wasn't something I could chase. If she wanted to talk, she would. And then the phone rang. Not a text, not a voice, a real call. I answered on the first ring, then instantly regretted sounding too eager. Hey, she said. There was wind in the background, leaves whispering.
You there? I asked. I'm here, she said. I'm at the clearing. I closed my eye, tried to picture it from her angle. The angle of someone who didn't know the fire the way I did, but who carried the smoke in her blood anyway. She didn't say anything for a while. Then it's smaller than I thought. I know. And quiet. Yeah, it doesn't feel haunted. That surprised me. No, she said. Just forgotten. We spoke for 48 minutes. She asked questions in slow spirals, not to accuse, not even to understand, just to lay it all out like puzzle pieces on the floor. What was it like afterward? Empty. Did you ever tell anyone? No. Why not? I didn't know how, and no one wanted to hear it. She let that one sit. I could hear her footsteps crunching softly over leaves. Do you think he meant to forgive you? I didn't answer right away. I think he didn't know how either. That made her stop walking. You said you were afraid of turning into him. I was. Are you still? I looked down at my hands. Old hands. Tired. Veined. Marked by years. No, I said. I think I've already turned into someone else. That night, I dreamed of you again. But this time, we weren't alone. Ellie was there. Older than she should have been. She wore her mother's eyes. And my guilt like a jacket. We were all sitting around a fire that didn't burn. It glowed, but gave no heat. You handed her the matchbook. She didn't flinch. She looked at me. I nodded, and she dropped it into the fire. It didn't catch. It just disappeared. When I woke, my chest ached like it had been hollowed, but lighter. I went to the shed today, the one I haven't stepped into since you died. It still smells like oil and regret. The same folding chair is there, leaning against the far wall, rusted, bent, but it's the matchbook I found in the corner that caught me. Not the red one, a new one, blue, unused, still sealed. I held it like it might tell me something. A second chance, maybe, or a test. I didn't light it. I walked outside, placed it on the porch rail, and watched the wind take it. The next day, Ellie came back. She didn't knock, just opened the door and stepped in like she used to, like she belonged. She handed me a photo, one she'd taken. The clearing, sunlight through the trees, a single shoe, half buried in leaves. I think it was yours, she said. I didn't recognize it, but I nodded anyway. She sat across from me, same spot, no water glasses this time. She said, I think I want to know you now. And just like that, a door opened inside me I didn't know was still locked. We talked for hours, about everything, about her childhood, about her mother, about the space my absence left. I used to pretend you were on some mission, she said, like a spy, like you had to go away to protect me. I was just broken. I told her, I know, she said, but kids don't understand broken, they just understand gone. At one point, she reached across the table. Her hand covered mine, not a hug, not forgiveness, just presence, warm, real. And in that small act, I felt something shift in the architecture of my soul, like a cracked beam had been replaced, like maybe the house inside me could stand again. She's coming back next week. We're going to drive out to the river together, not to relive anything, just to walk, to name what happened, and then let it go, to scatter the ashes with hands that don't shake anymore. I think that's the real fire, not destruction, but release. We didn't say much on the drive. Ellie sat with her knees pulled up, face turned to the window, headphones in but not playing anything. She kept the map in her lap, folded and unfolded until the creases frayed. I watched the road, but more than once my eyes flicked over, just to make sure she was really there. It's strange how something can hurt and heal at the same time, how proximity can feel both sacred and sharp. She didn't ask where we were going. She knew, the clearing. Again, I wondered what she'd say when she saw it with me standing beside her. If the presence of the man who caused the fire would make the trees look smaller, if my voice would color the light differently. When we got out, she held the map like a compass, even though the place was in plain view. The ground was dry, the shoe she'd found before was still there. She picked it up this time, turned it over in her hand, then set it on the stump beside us like an offering. We stood in the center. I pointed. Here, that's where I knelt. She nodded, didn't speak. This is where it started. Still silence. Then she asked the question I wasn't sure I could answer. Did you do it to hurt him? I closed my eyes, let the memory unspool again. The heat, the cold sweat, the way I felt when the flame took root. No, I said. I did it to be seen. Her eyes met mine, so clear, so unflinching. You were a kid. I was angry. That's not the same thing. We sat, cross-legged in the dirt, like a ceremony. A two-person funeral for things we couldn't name. I brought a small metal tin. Inside, scraps of the past. A corner of an old photo, piece of the red matchbook cover. The letter I never sent her mother. The list of things I never said to you. I offered her the matches. She didn't take them. Instead, she placed her palm over the tin. I think we've burned enough. The river was still there, still moving, still pulling its weight without apology. She took off her shoes and walked in ankle deep, closed her eyes, let the cold hold her. I followed. We didn't speak, just stood there, two people. Feet in water, shoulders in sun. She took the tin from my hand, opened it, held it to the current and let the pieces go, not all at once, one at a time. Each one watched, named, released. I watched the paper curl and drift, the ink bleed, the fire that never was finally swallowed. Back at the car, she paused before getting in. She looked at me, not through me, not past me, but at me, and she said, "I'm not angry. I didn't ask why, didn't ruin it with a question. I just nodded, the way you once nodded at me through a veil of smoke and disbelief. Only this time, the house wasn't burning. Only this time we both stayed. That night, I lit a candle, not lemon this time, vanilla, soft, warm. I didn't strike a match. I used a lighter, something gentler. I placed the candle by the photo, the one of you and me, and the fish. And now, beside it, a new one, me and Ellie, by the river. Barefoot, smiling, no fire, just light. I woke before sunrise, no dream, no heaviness, just the soft hum of morning beginning. The air cool and smelling faintly of pine and earth. Ellie had left a message overnight. A photo, the river again, this time from above. Taken on a hill I didn't know she'd climbed. The water was gold in the early light. Her shadow stretched long at the bottom of the frame. She'd written, "You should see it from here." I stared at it for a long time, and I realized something. We were never meant to stay in the ashes. I walked that morning, just down the road, past the old church, through the grove, where you once taught me how to skip stones. I let myself breathe, really breathe. I thought about everything we buried, everything we burned, and I asked myself quietly, like a prayer, what do I carry now? Not guilt, not anger, but a name, a story, a life. I stood in front of the mirror that afternoon, and really looked. The lines around my eyes, the silver in my hair, the way my mouth still pulls to one side when I try to smile. I said your name aloud, Dad, and then I said it like a man introducing himself to the world after a long exile. I said it for Ellie. I said it for me. I don't believe in redemption the way movies tell it. No sweeping music. No grand gesture. Just this. Waking up and choosing to love what remains. Living in the house you once wanted to run from. Answering the phone. Keeping the fire small. Today I boxed up the red matchbook. I wrapped it in linen. Placed it in a wooden box. Tied it with string. I wrote a label. Do not open. Not out of fear, but because we no longer need to. And I put it in the attic. Not buried, just stored. Just history. There's a letter on my desk now, addressed to Ellie, not sealed. Not sent, just waiting. I'll know when it's time. Inside are 3 sentences. I see you. I hear you. You are not fire, you are light. The wind is soft today. The trees don't creak. The past is not gone, but it no longer sets the rhythm. That's mine now. And if someday she tells this story, our story, I hope she leaves out the flames. Not because they didn't matter, but because what came after finally does. I never told you about the fire. Not like this. Not with my whole chest open, hands empty, heart beating. But now I have. And I think wherever you are, however broken you were, I hope you see me. I hope you finally see me. And I hope just maybe, you feel warm, not burn, just warm.